Hello, I am here with Jackie Bensinger, and I want to share some of her information, experience, and gifts with you. If you are here listening or watching this podcast interview, there is no coincidence. You were drawn to this. I have purposefully and intentionally selected Jackie to be part of an upcoming summit that I'm putting on called the Subtle Energy Summit. I chose Jackie because she is an acupuncturist like myself, or rather a practitioner of Chinese medicine, but so much more. Years ago, when one of my beloved cats went missing, the first person I called was Jackie, because Jackie has this talent, this gift of finding missing animals and missing people. She has been hired by local police agencies, detective agencies, and alike to find missing persons, and has done so for years. And so I have talked with her by myself many times. And I thought, Jackie, if you're willing, I would love to share some of this with other practitioners that also have intuition, or maybe just somebody that's interested in understanding, how does this work? How do you know where a missing person might be? How do you communicate with somebody on the other side? That sort of thing. And it could be just such an information to share with other people that might experience this, or just curious about it, or might want to incorporate more of this into their practice. And I know you're going to talk about that at the summit, the ways you can incorporate it and protect yourself while you're doing these intuitive practices. But I would rather introduce you and have you explain to me again how you got into this. Like, how did you get into weaving intuition with Chinese medicine and finding missing animals, people, and this type of intuition work?
Well, it started when I was very young. I started astrally projecting as a teenager, and my grandmother was a psychic. She didn't come out and say it, because at that age you didn't do that. But I would say I've always had that sense of knowing, of just having an expansive energy, um, being in the meditative state and connecting with people around me, whether they were in the present moment or whether they had passed over, or whether this was something that was going to happen in the future. So the first issue that I had, or not issue, but the first time that I experienced a child passing over, was a child that was missing in San Diego. And I was actually working for Dr. Richard Tan. And I was working for him, and this child kept knocking on my door going, "Jackie, I need to tell you where I am," because she had been kidnapped, and she told me she had passed over, and she was okay with it. So that started at that time, and then it was adults, it was children, and then missing animals started right after that. So I connected with private investigator Bill Garcia, who has um, been on TV, who's been on ABC, who's been on all kinds of different shows, Dr. Phil. And so he usually calls me and he says, "What do you think about this?" And usually I pick up energy right away and just give him what I think. And sometimes I have people call me and connect with me right away and do readings. But certainly working and doing an individual reading is much easier than working um, with the parents of a missing child. That's much more difficult, because you're connecting with the criminal that did these horrible things. So I have learned kind of the hard way that not only as a practitioner, but as a reader, that we have to protect ourselves. And we have that ability through the old school Thich Nhat Hanh way of breathing in through your dantian and smiling as you exhale, and you release whatever energy that you no longer want to hold on to. And certainly when, patients come in that have addiction issues, or just they've been a caregiver, and usually they have a lot of issues once the person they're taking care of has passed or gotten worse in the hospital, or just going through what they're going through, a divorce or whatever. As a practitioner, we need to learn to not take that energy into our energy, because the initial part of learning how to be intuitive is for us to take care of ourselves.
Mm.
And the second part is being in that meditative state of really feeling the energy, feeling our vibration, connecting with Mother Earth, and knowing the basics of the chakras, and learning how to talk to people, how to, I've had patients that are in their 70s and 80s, and they still feel like their mother, who passed over 40 years ago, is still telling them what to do. So that's something that really has a major effect on a patient's health, especially as patients age. Stress has a very physical effect, not just emotional effect. So as we understand these multi-level, because all of these issues are not just on the physical level that we address as acupuncturists. It's not just nausea, vomiting, poor circulation, whatever. They're all of the levels, the spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical, they all talk to each other continuously. So as we kind of tune into those levels at the current state, at maybe the past state, the future state, then we are not only helping ourselves, but we're helping our patients go through, and they pick that energy up from us. We're like, you're so relaxed. I like that. That's so cool. You're not upset. You're not in a hurry. I know you're busy, but you're with me right now. And that's a huge thing for our patients to understand and connect with. And that helps them through whatever state that they're in.
When you're in session, or whether it's an acupuncture, Chinese medicine session, or you're doing an intuitive reading session, how does the information come to you? So let me start with that one. Like, how does that information come to you in a treatment space, and then in an intuitive space if you're doing a reading for somebody, let's say non-locally? How does the information come to you?
Well, initially, we always want to cleanse our energy before we start, either through a reading or as acupuncturists. And when we wash our hands with the cold water, which everybody knows about, we've taken that class, and they said between patients, you got to do that. You're actually releasing that energy. So you're walking into a new patient, or you're doing a reading with someone else, and you are relaxed, and you're almost in, if you have the time to do, just kind of get into that meditative state of deep breath and just feeling, connecting with Mother Earth, then you're in that state. And sometimes when they start talking to you and you're in the state of active listening, where you're not being judgy, and you're just listening, and whatever choices they make about their life, you're just very connected with them. You're looking at them. Your body is not crossed. Your arms are not crossed. Your legs are not crossed, but you're open. Then that energy is going to come in as to, I think her mother had an issue, and perhaps she was trying to over control this child, and maybe that's what happened to her and why she's so fearful and anxious right now. So sometimes this energy will just come in because you can almost sense, and that is the definition of intuition, is you're seeing this energy even though there's no actual fact behind it, but you
Mhm.
sense that energy. You can almost feel it in your body and your solar plexus, where you feel anxiety is coming through that person. So that
Mm.
doesn't mean you have to hold on to it, but you may sense this is coming from a female that may not be here right now, but it affected this patient. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. The reason why I asked is I think all of us are intuitive to some level, and I think some
Absolutely.
people are strengthening their intuition. They're recognizing, oh, that's intuition. That's not just me. Like I shared with you in my own practice, I had things coming into my head, and I would think, why am I thinking that? And then the patient would say something to validate what was in my head. So that I moved from keeping it all in my head and just letting it come out.
Right.
Like I told you, I was working with somebody and I said, well, how are you going to do that if you're trying to get pregnant? And the person looked at me and said, how did you know I'm trying to get pregnant? I didn't tell anybody. And I thought, oops, you know, because like you said, it's more of a knowing. It's like there is clairaudience. Some people hear things, they smell things, clairsentient. You just kind of know. It becomes this knowing. And many of us that are learning how to use our intuition second guess that or doubt that and say, is that me or is that them? Am I crazy? Like you said, you just like let it come out now. You will share in a treatment space. You might say to somebody, I'm getting the sense that your mother may have been a little bit controlling. Does that resonate with you? And then you'll adjust your treatment or just be more present with them. I want to go back and ask you a question. You shared this with me, and I found that fascinating that you said when little children pass over and you connect with them, a lot of times they'll say to you, they forgive really easily. They'll be like, it's okay, I'm good, you know. But you said like adults that pass over, they don't always forgive as fast. Like,
Right.
can you tell a little bit about, I know you have worked on a lot of missing cases.
Right.
So what is that experience like in helping detectives or even law enforcement find missing people? What is that what has that experience been like for you?
Initially, feeling the energy of the criminal, that was difficult.
Hmm.
And I've learned to let that go. And actually, location, like real estate people say, that is what it's all about for missing animals, missing people, missing criminals. And connecting with that that child that is passed over. There was a recent case in Texas that I worked on,
Hmm.
and I was told by another private detective, you need to call the law enforcement for that area and tell them. And sometimes they kind of blow me off, but these guys, because of what I said, they listened to me right away. They said, what do you think? I said, she is within at least 5 miles of her house. And I think if she was found maybe 5.5 to 6 miles from her house where this guy had thrown her in a ditch. I know
Hmm.
that's awful to talk about, but um, I connected with her, and that's how I got that information. But I also work with Google Earth, especially with missing animals and missing whoever, criminals, missing adults. Um, I will listen to what the people tell me. This has happened, this happened, this happened. And I see where the child was. And then I connect with, I look at the map, and I just kind of pick up the energy from that map of not just the traffic map, but the actual, trees, earth, whatever, to see, does that feel right? And
Like the
sometimes the name,
topographical map. Yeah.
topographical map, and the name of the streets. Sometimes names will come through, like you were
Yeah.
telling me about that,
Yeah.
how,
Yeah.
someone's state came through to you.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
it's the same thing. And we don't often realize, if we don't know anything about it, that this can be very helpful to us.
Well, yeah, like getting the closure around missing people.
Hmm.
And then with pets, you've helped a lot of people find their pets, right?
Right.
Like not past. You found a lot of people, you've helped a lot of people find missing pets, right?
Yes, I
Can
have.
you share a couple stories or one that comes to mind about where you reunited somebody with their pet?
There was an older woman in Massachusetts, and she was in a situation, a very kind of iffy situation. She didn't have very much money, and I didn't charge really enough for the reading for her, but she was freaked out because she loved her dog so much. And she had a homeless guy staying with her in this hotel room. And so she went to work. She was working as a hospital person, and she said, well, she called me and she told me what was going on because she was referred to me by an animal reader,
Mhm.
and the animal reader is too much stress. I can't do it. You deal with it. so so this woman told me, well, I think what happened is the dog got upset with this guy. I think he was just too weird, and he got out. I don't know how he got out. So I told her immediately, I said, he's not that far around. She said, I've looked everywhere for him, but I can't find him. I said, he's going to be back. You may not be able to find him right now, but he's going to be back in a week and a half. And I said, the police are going to be part of you finding them. And sure enough, it was almost to the day. It was, I think, in 2021 that this happened, kind of at the end of December. And it was cold outside. And so she called me and she said, the police call me and they're so excited because they're going to bring me my dog, and I'm going to be here for my dog. And she was probably in her 70s.
Yeah.
So she was so excited and so happy that I found her dog. And you know, that was one case. And then I've had other cases where it has been unfortunate, where in San Diego, when I was there, it was a patient tell me that her parents, I think it was their cat that was missing. So it was kind of in a valley area of Hillcrest. And so what I did was I held the animals where they slept, put my hands on like their food stuff and their toys, and I picked up that energy, which we all have that ability. We we feel that energy. And so right immediately I saw this big round concrete cap. And I told the patient, I said, is there anything like that around like the valley area, which was down from the house? She said, yeah, it's like a water top. So she and her little girl and I went down the valley down there looking. And unfortunately, I, this is another aspect of my intuition, is I looked up and I saw this squirrel sitting in a tree, and the squirrel looked at me and said, look down at your feet. And there was, yes, that was not, fortunately, it wasn't the kitty, but it was her tag and her chain, and it was like right there. And so I said, Robin, is that your kitty's tag? And she goes, yes. I said, well, I can see what happened. And I told her what I felt. And they eventually found the body of the kitty. So things like that. So sometimes it's really good. I say, this is where the kitty is, this is where the dog is, they're going to be back. And sometimes it's the other end of the spectrum.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I always have prayers with the person I'm working with.
Mhm.
And I say, I recommend that you do a little ritual so you have a good home going for you and the animal.
Mhm.
And so you're appreciated. So it's
Yeah. Yeah.
and I do that with people too.
In your intuitive readings, what are some of the reasons people come to you for intuitive readings? I know you do a lot of online readings. What do people come to you for intuitive readings usually, typically?
Advice. I have a lot of times it can be issues with the person they're in love with, either the person going through a divorce or the person that they really care for is just there. He's doing his thing, she's doing her thing, and they're just not connecting. They do connect on a lot of different levels, but it's not working. So so what I do, as I've been certified as an interfaith minister, so what I do is I help kind of guide them through that situation and say, this person has their own way. So I want you to protect yourself. Put yourself first. And so that's a big issue. It usually has to do with relationships, with money, with career. Those are usually the big issues, and a lot of times health as well. What do you think about that? I did a reading for a lady here in North Carolina today, and I picked up that she had hip pain, back pain. So of course, being an acupuncturist, I was like, well, these are some supplements that I recommend, and don't need nightshades. And you know, so I usually throw that in as well, because you're a natural medical intuitive if you have that healing experience as well.
Yeah. And I know for me, before we started recording this, I shared with you some things going on for me, and you validated it for me. So in that sense, a reading for a practitioner may be validation, even like, hey, Jackie, I'm getting these messages, or I think they're messages. I'm not sure. What are you picking up on? And you say, I see that too. Like, that was the analogy I gave you, is like, if I said to you, Jackie, do you see like a round object over there? And you look and go, no, I don't see anything. I might start to think I'm going crazy. But if I say, Jackie, I see a round object over there, and you say, I see it too, it's like, oh, good, because maybe my husband doesn't see it, right? So I feel like you're almost the intuitive for intuitives. You can be, right? Like, because many of us that are intuitive, we don't know where to go. Or like you even shared with me earlier, that because you're so sensitive, you're very selective in who you allow in your energy space and who you allow to work on you. And that the same goes non-locally when we're talking about intuition. I mean, I know for myself, back in my days, I was kind of a psychic junkie. I would go to those psychic fairs and this and that. And I realized, whoa, I am picking up on such negative energies that I need to be very careful who I allow in my space to read my space and all of that. So I would personally consider you the intuitive for intuitives. And I'm just grateful that you were willing and are willing to share your journey in practice, in how you've learned how to successfully bring that gift to the planet, that gift being that intuition. With the missing persons, you bring a lot of closure. You help solve cases with dogs and animals. There's beautiful reuniting. And then in your intuition, just helping validate other intuitives, helping people make decisions, feel more grounded. Even when you and I were talking before we hit record, I was sharing some things with you, and there was a shift. There was almost a healing in our conversation, because as we were talking, you helped ground me. And I just think that's also powerful. So I wanted to make sure that I shared this with more people, and this will be the video for an intro to your talk, which for the summit that's coming up, the Subtle Energy Summit, April 7th, 8th, and 9th. I think we have you on Sunday, the 9th. And if anybody wants to get a hold of you, I think you said it's okay to email you if they wanted to work with you to find an animal, or intuitively, Jackie at vibrationalhealingarts.net. It'll be in the show notes. And you are going to be having some workshops around developing your intuition in 2023, which is exciting for practitioners who have this raw talent and don't know what to do with it.
We need it.
We
We
need
need
it.
it as practitioners because I think everybody is intuitive. We're
Hmm.
all energy, we're all
Hmm.
vibrations.
Hmm.
We certainly learned
Yeah.
that in acupuncture school. And Einstein says it too, that we're all energy. So it is physics, it's truth, and all those things are connected. So thank you, East. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. And I look forward to your talk on April 9th at the subtleenergysummit.com. And I'm sure we're going to be doing more and sharing more as 2023 unfolds. And so everybody listening or tuning in, stay tuned and connect with Jackie. Jackie at vibrationalhealingarts.net. She might just be that breakthrough you're looking for.
Awesome. Thank
Bye,
you.
Jackie.
Bye.